Hello everyone, this is Star Zenith 33, Laura Francesca here at Podbean. And you can find this podcast also on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and other platforms. You can also go to the website at starzenith33.podbean.com and you will find all the selection of podcast episodes that I am doing. And you can, if you missed one, you can click on there and listen to it. And the main one, this is the most recent one, it will show on the website, and you can just click on there if you're looking on your either your phone or your desktop. But you can see it, on a desktop, you can see like the full website on there, and you can just click on there and in case you missed an episode. So we're going to be talking about this beautiful, abundant, prosperous transit. Okay, and then we're going to dive more into everything else that is going besides it. Okay, just very small, not a lot. So this is velvet luck energy. Okay, what I'm going to be talking about. It is when Venus trines Jupiter, which is happening today, exactly at 15 degrees. So when that happens, love flows, money smiles, and God briefly reminds us that pleasure is not a sin, it is alignment. Okay, so let's dive in there. Okay, so welcome to the podcast here. Hope everybody is doing well. There are some people that are not doing so well, and let's just talk a little bit about that. Of what is going on in Jalisco, Mexico, right? Very unfortunate situation that happened today as people were waking up. There's many tourists in Mexico. Maybe they were waking up to their hotel and what the heck is going on, right? A lot of cars burning, a lot of smoke burning. It was so unexpected, but I'm not too surprised, to tell you the truth, because I was talking about the astrocartography, not in Mexico, but in the United States. But Mexico is just right next door to the United States. And, Pluto was transiting through there. And I happened to just mention it last night. And it just so happens that this morning there was this whole burning and cars. And the reason for that is because they killed their main guy. Okay, they killed the most important guy. And it's kind of an example in Hollywood. The day that they arrested Harvey Weinstein, the most powerful man in Hollywood, you knew it was over. You knew Hollywood was over, right? He was the most powerful man, the most creative one as well. And, he went to jail. And ever since then, I'm not going to lie, I'm not citing him or anything, but ever since he went to jail, Hollywood went down. Because now the movies, there were replicas of a movie that was done 30 years ago. There was just no creativity. It was lost, right? But this podcast is not to talk about Harvey Weinstein. It's just an example. But all the movies that we've seen, they're just replicas, They're just replicas of, the only type of movies they made money is probably just superheroes and stuff like that. But there's just has not been no creativity, and I'm not surprised why it is where it is right now, right? But anyway, a lot of it has to do with the astrology. But like I said, I'm not here to talk about Harvey Weinstein. He's just an example that he was the main guy, and then he went to jail, and then everyone went kaput, right? And so in Mexico, the main cartel guy, which I'm not going to dive into that either, but the main guy from Jalisco, they killed him. I don't know if he was ambushed or I don't know what happened. So they're all angry, the followers of, his team and so forth. Because even if you get rid of the main guy, there's still a group of a bunch of them, right? So they're all angry that they killed their main guy. And so they started, just blowing up gas stations and cars. And there's so many videos that was shown, especially on X, where they show, going into a gasoline station and just telling the people to get out of the gas station. They're just blowing it up, and just so much chaos that's going on, right? And I feel a lot of it has to do with distraction. I guess we're just, you know, not nosy, but we want to know what's going on around the world. I mean, especially if you do have family members that are traveling in Mexico, you want to know what is going on. Are they safe? And but other times, other people that don't have family or friends, and a lot of people also have family in Mexico, in that part of Jalisco. And so we just want to know what's going on. And then you get just in the trap of just following every video and every video. And then it turns into this distraction, right? And the podcast here is about to talk about this beautiful, beautiful transit that is happening today. Okay. I wanted to talk about it, or I was preparing for it, because I have to do the graphics and everything. And then I just wanted to see where my energy was, and since I woke up, I don't know what it was. Today is the 22 day, by the way. It's a master of Capricorn, of politics, okay, of business and so forth. And but 22 day is different than a 22 degree. 22 degree is Capricorn, but to me, it could be the same frequency, right? Because it's a master number that has to do with elites and billionaires and politics. So when I woke up, I went on YouTube and I seen this video on Warren Buffett, and he was sharing some why people are poor and how to get out of the poverty line, and just explaining everything in detail. And there's like a bunch of videos. It has a picture of him, and then it has exactly his voice. And so I'm pretty sure it was him. Maybe somebody heard him in some kind of convention or something, a business convention, and they put it in a video or something. But it's a lot of videos on him about teaching, what he knows, right? I mean, he is pretty old already, and the best thing he could do is just teach the younger generation about money and how not to fall in poverty, and that this world was not meant for you to succeed. As a billionaire, he would know. It took him a long time to become a billionaire. But he talks a lot about persistence and never to give up and so forth. And, I don't know. I like to learn from older people because they already went through it, even though we are living in a innovation world. But it's not just, it's about sandwiching and overlapping. It's not about just learning one, but you do want to learn about people that have made money and ran businesses. And obviously they know what they're talking about. Obviously Warren Buffett, right? And so he knows when to pull stocks out. He knows when to invest and so forth. But he was talking more towards the younger people, how not to fall into poverty consciousness, and put in the work to invest, and how not to be poor. A lot of it has to do internal. It has to do with your mind. And, a lot of us that are smart, we're learning about that, about how to overcome, with neuroscience, and just unlearning everything we've learned from our childhood of how we were raised. A lot of us were raised with parents that didn't know how to make money, that were not business owners, right? So you want to learn a little bit of that, and you also want to innovate. You want to get in with the times. And the best person that you would learn from would be Warren Buffett. You know what I mean? Because he seems a credible person. He's not into like magic or anything. He believes in working hard and putting in, but not like super hard. He's an action man. So he believes in putting action and going fast. And, and it's so interesting, now that we're talking about Warren Buffett, about having a dream. I had a dream about him several years ago. No, get your mind out of the gutter. It was nothing like that. It was where he was teaching me. And he was teaching me how to go faster, And at that time I was being a longshoreman. I was a longshoreman. I used to work at the docks for a long time. And I don't know why I dreamt of him. It was just so bizarre. I was already in the time where I was already going to leave, um, and dedicate full time into being an entrepreneur. And I wanted to do something else. But he was telling me that I was being too slow, that I need to go faster. And it was just a message on there. And I appreciate his advice. It was a time when I needed advice. And so he came through in my dream, and I was like, oh, okay. So I followed his advice. And so that was helpful, but it was just so I'm just remembering right now. So a lot of things that can happen is with this Venus Jupiter trine. There are a lot of memories that can come back into our lives. There are either money that wants to return back in our lives, people that want to return back into our lives, our ancestors, and which is the irony that, I had heard a download today, something about your ancestors are back. Um, Something to that, okay. And also, I decided before the podcast, decided to take a siesta. I'm taking siestas. So whenever my body feels like I need to take a break, I'm doing that. And I'm glad I did that because I really needed a siesta. My body was tired. And I don't know why. I haven't really been doing a lot, but I have, I think the thought and I don't want to overwhelm myself, but I think the thought of the things I have to do. But today's Sunday, so I decided to give myself a break, and I'm glad that I did because it's in alignment with this Jupiter trine Venus. Okay, and this is, you know, it's just a beautiful, beautiful transit that is going on right now. And while the world is going crazy and chaotic, especially with the recent eclipse of February 17th that we had, and then the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in Aries, right? Um, where in the reality in itself, has it is about bending. Okay, it is about bending. It is about structures that are crumbling down. It is about fires, which is what's happening in Mexico. Okay, there's a lot of people that are feeling lost and feeling confused and more. Okay, and so why does today matter? Um, in the midst of all this chaos, there are people that are going to notice today's transit, and there are other people that are not, because they're so distracted on what is going on with the fires. And I'm not saying just turn a blind eye and you know, uh, don't care about what's going on in Mexico. A lot of us do care because we come from Mexican descent and we have families there, and we're concerned what's going on down there, right? But don't get too involved in that because you're gonna miss the beautiful transit that is of today. And once you miss it, you don't want to miss it. That's the thing. It's like kind of missing the train towards a beautiful place, and you missed it because you were too distracted, right? And so, what Neptune and Saturn is doing, it's dissolving old realities. Okay. I mean, we're going back to, we've never experienced Neptune in Aries. Okay. This is historical. And so it's dissolving these old realities that we've been through. It's doing these massive resets. And when Venus and Jupiter creates a harmonious trine, it's creating an abundant shelter. It's creating a bubble of grace where God says, here, take this. Okay? You will need it for what comes next, right? It could be anything. It could be lost money, restoration of lost money. It could be somebody wants to pay you money that they owe you. It could be a lost person. Maybe a lost person returns back into your life. It could be a lost book. It could be some lost information that you needed, right? It was that golden nugget that you needed, right? That's going to change the trajectory of your success, of your business. And so that is what God is saying here. You're going to need this, okay, with what comes next. And so it's our lifeline in the middle of the storm that we are going through. But you have to recognize it. And you won't recognize it if you're distracted with what is going. I am sure that I'm hearing, see, this is why I like podcasting, because I get downloads at the same time. And it's like, it could be my ancestors, it could be people that love me on the other side that are helping me with downloads. Um, and what was a download? Oh yeah, it said too much adapting. Okay, so there's been too much adapting. That's when it's coming down. And so not nobody, but not everyone, okay, will notice this. Will notice this frequency that is happening, like I said, because what's happening around the world. And I'm sure the president of Mexico is going to take care of that. I'm sure there's leaders that are going to, all the best thing that we can do is just pray, and hopefully it gets resolved and they get their ego, you know, um, gets resolved, and understand that if that main leader was doing a lot of dangerous things, then he had to go, and they're just going to have to, now they're going to have to adapt to not having that leader. And this could be the dissolving and the crumbling with Neptune and Saturn in Aries, that something came down that had to come down. And now they're going to have to adapt with not having that leader, right? Which is less danger for the people, the community, the families that live in Jalisco, Mexico. So we get to choose what we tune into, okay? To either fear and chaos or receiving and grace. Okay, so, you know, it just depends. We could either get distracted by the news, right? Or gossip or anything like that. Or we can receive, because that is a lesson on a Jupiter trine Venus. It is about receiving, okay? And it is also about grace. And so we can focus on what's falling apart or on what's being built as we are being distracted. What is being built as we are being distracted, right? And so this Venus Jupiter trine is like a radio frequency. It's broadcasting loud and clear, okay? And so I labeled this podcast The Great Benefic Jackpot. Okay, because Venus, it rules love and it rules value. Okay, it's a benefic and it's exalted. Okay, in the sign of Pisces. When it's exalted, that means it's elevated. Venus loves Pisces in there, and that's what's transiting right now. I was born with Venus in Pisces. I was. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. Because on the dark shadow side of Venus and Pisces, it could be that you can turn into a martyr. Okay, you can, try to help the underdogs and the people that need help, right? But in the same time, what happens when Pisces does that in the sign of Venus, in the planet of Venus, and I know this because, I was born with it, and I know other people that have it too, and it's the same situation, the patterns where we are trying to help people and then we get lost in the sauce, okay? We get lost in the situation of trying to, help people, and they're ungrateful. And they step on Pisces, Venus and Pisces. They take advantage of Pisces. They'll take their money away, or they'll make them into a martyr or even crazy, okay? And to take that money away, they'll try to siphon their energy, try to steal their entity. It kind of reminds me a little bit Marilyn Monroe, which is so interesting because that's why I said I was testing the energy today before I jumped on the podcast and, did my notes, and when I get downloads, I write my notes and I prepare before I go on the podcast. And so if you guys don't know, Sometimes I'll just jump in there, but sometimes I don't. Lately, I've been taking notes and downloads and what does this mean, and then and I write it in a book. But I was so I was studying the whole Warren Buffett, and that really helped me. A video about he was talking a lot about not spending a lot of money like an expensive like Chanel purses and shoes and things that is not an asset. This is just so you can impress people. And you know he did mention the iPhone. For me, in my defense, I actually jumped from an XR all the way to a 17. That was a big jump. you know I was thinking more like the 14, 15, but then when I realized that I qualified for the 17, because of my good credit with my technology company, I just took a leap, took a jump, and I said, screw it. Screw it. Let's do it. Right. I think that's what is it? Branson says, I think that's one of his mottos, screw it. Let's do it. And so, but I did it and I invested it, and I'm very grateful that I did, and I'm very glad that I did. Um, and actually, Spirit pushed me a little bit into doing that because I was like, oh, I don't know, it's pretty expensive, But I still went ahead and did it for my business. It's an asset. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is an asset for my business because this is where I'm doing my podcast. This is if I want to do videos and, for me to read charts. I can create videos and, shoot them out there to people that want a paid reading and so forth. So just anything like that, where if people want to, where I'm accepting also my business of doing a FaceTime, they deposit money in my PayPal, and then we could do a FaceTime on any topic they want to know on their chart, right? To see what they're watching out for, just like the people that were traveling, in Mexico. Had they known astrocartography, had they known that traveling line that was maybe on Pluto, there was going to be some deadly situation. There was going to be some transformation that was going to happen, right? And, so those are that's why I use my phone, because it's one of the good things that you should invest is in a good phone. Okay. Especially if you own a business, you're running a business, you really need a good phone. And that's, for me, that's quality, and that's what I invest highly in. So for me, it's an asset. And also because, I'm not trying to promote the 17 Pro, but it has an amazing battery. Okay. And I've been talking about that, how it even took my cortisol. For those that we have this hormone called the cortisol in our stomach area, in our tummy area. And a lot of times we take in other people's energy that we shouldn't, and we can gain weight in that way. Also, we can be so stressed out, okay, just by anything that comes to us. And it could be anything just as simple as having a very small battery in your phone, or your phone dying all the time and not being available. So whenever you want to take a video, or I don't know, maybe something dangerous or something unexpected, you want to always have your phone on. And what I love about the 17 Pro is that you can you can charge it at 100%, and you won't have to charge it till the next day. Okay. And even when you did, I went to an event yesterday for the Year of the Horse here in my town, in the port of LA. And I looked at the videos. I'm like, how many videos did I take? I took like 20 videos. And I was like, gosh, did I take that many videos? And some I kind of deleted because I didn't like how they came out, and they were just random videos, as I was, traveling there. I was taking random videos of other places I haven't went to and so forth. But yeah, I can't believe I took like 20 videos and some selfies on there as well. And it was at 100%. And I came home and it was still at about 40%, of battery left. So I was like, wow, it did pretty good. And so before with my XR, I was only able to use it for 1 hour. I was only able to do like 3 videos and maybe a couple selfies, and that's it, you know. And then the phone would die. And I had a mag, a one of those battery that you put in the back of the phone. And I bought one of those because my phone kept dying all the time. And then that was not working so good. It was working okay, but then I had to wait another hour till that charges on my phone. And then I could use it. And by that time, I already missed on events, that I'm like, oh man. And so that used to stress me out a lot. It really did. I was like, oh, I need to calm down. But it really used to stress me out. And I used to get so angry. And then what happened is that because I was getting so angry that I was like, um, you know what? I'm going to go buy me a chocolate cake. I'm going to go buy me a chocolate bar. I'm going to go buy me a sundae. I'm going to go buy me some ice cream, or I'm going to buy me some sweets or something because I'm stressed out, or I'm going to go smoke a cigarette because I am so stressed out, like the phone keeps, like dying, and it just really stressed me. I really did. Okay, I'm not lying. It really did. It really was major because I always needed to have a phone, because I was so used to always jumping and doing episodes on my other podcast at Swellcast. And when I wanted to do one, the phone was dead. I was like, oh. And it used to just bother me so much. And then what happened is I was so stressed out that I would go and grab what's in the refrigerator, or let me go grab a pack of cigarettes, and I'm trying to cut smoking, things like that, or let me go drink me a beer. Or some wine or something. So I was so stressed out, and then that builds cortisol in the stomach, and then you start gaining weight. And then it's because you're overeating, you're overdoing something, you're so stressed out, you're trying to curb that cortisol. And so and a lot of it all started because lack of battery, right? And so now that I have this awesome phone with a big battery, I don't have those problems anymore. And guess what? I don't have cortisol anymore. And guess what? I don't have a big tummy no more. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's an asset because it even helped me health wise, to eliminate that cortisol of that stress hormone that can make me fat. So that's a plus for me. Okay. And this is something that I recently understood, like, wow, I smile because I'm like, yes, like I don't have to worry anymore. You know what I mean? Because I just don't. I just charge it, at 100%. I don't need to charge it till the next day, and that's a beautiful thing. So anyway, so I was listening, and also I in the video, Warren Buffett, he talked about that. He talked about cortisol of having to eliminate and cut things so you won't build cortisol as well. And it was interesting that it was all aligned. So anyway, and then a couple hours after, I don't know why, I looked at another video on YouTube, and it was about Marilyn Monroe. And it was this Italian that was talking in a video, right? He was talking about Marilyn Monroe. I'm like, why am I watching this? But I said, okay, well, let me watch and see what they're saying about her, right? And so there was this Italian. He was like an old man. He was an old man. He knew her back then. But he said he never met her, but he was in that circle that knew her, that were hanging around with her and everything. And the title of the video was "The Mob Killed Marilyn Monroe." So me, I'm just curious. I'm like, I wonder what they're talking about. And they said, that she didn't have acting or nothing like that. And they had to give her acting classes and so forth. But they spotted her because she was like so beautiful, right? And they gave her an opportunity to, I think, model on a magazine or something like that. Somebody took a, oh yeah, she came on the Playboy magazine. That's what it was. And Hugh Hefner put her on the magazine. But she wasn't naked or anything. She was wearing like a bikini and so forth, but she looked really sexy, back in those days, There, it was more about being sexy than being naked, right? So they put her in the magazine on the front cover of the Playboy, and she had no rights to those pictures. Okay, so Hugh Hefner, he was able to, post those pictures on the magazine whenever he wanted, and so he had rights over those pictures, and she didn't. And but they paid her, for that photo shoot and stuff, and that's how she started getting famous. But then they realized she couldn't act, so they told her that she needed to take acting classes, and they paid for all those classes and everything, and so forth. But the video said that the reason that they killed her or they got rid of her was because JFK. She was flirting with the president, and she wasn't making it low key. She was not being silent about it. She was flaunting it. She was making it very obvious. And it's interesting because I did look at her chart, and she had Mars in Pisces, but her Venus, she was a Gemini. She was a Gemini. So Geminis can be very flirtatious. So can Pisces. And when it's in Mars, it's even more so. It's more aggressive. Of being more. When you have Mars in Pisces, you're seen like an actress, or you're very flirtatious or something like that. And so she loved the attention. She loved all of that. And so it was getting in the way of JFK and his performance a as a performance as a yeah, I'm hearing a dollar, but I'm not going to say that. Something's coming on her, but I'm not going to say that. So it was about she was getting in the way of his marriage and stuff, and they thought that she was going to mess up his marriage, and that's why she was making it obvious, that she was with him, and being very flirtatious, and everything. And so they were just trying to protect him, and because he was obviously married, and they wanted him to do a good job as a president. But she was getting in the way, because they were having a full blown affair, right? He even purchased a house where she could live in that house, and nobody knew about that house. I didn't even know about that. But yeah, he bought a house for her. So every time, he went to go visit her in that house, that was their little house, right? And she was supposed to keep it a secret, but she was not able to. And she really fell in love with him, and I guess he fell in love with her. He said something about he's never been with somebody like her. And they both fell in love with each other. And they had a big old romance, so they had to break them apart. They think that she wanted to set him up or something like that, or something like there was no trust there, because she was also flirting with a bunch of other men. And I mean, he's the president, JFK, he was the president. So they had to get rid of her. She was already doing drugs anyway. And I'm not saying that's the reason to do it, but they said, well, she's doing drugs, and she would get high. And I don't do drugs, but I guess if you do drugs, you act in some other kind of way. And she was letting the world know that she's with the president, and singing him that happy birthday, Mr. President, and so forth. And I'm pretty sure the wife knew, that there was an affair going on. So they had to get rid of her. But she did marry Joe with DiMaggio, where he fell in love with her too. And they argued a lot as well. And but he said he always loved her, and he's the one that went to her cemetery tomb, and for 20 years he delivered her roses. Like, he was the one that really fell in love with her. So anyway, but he was saying, this old Italian man was saying that they took her out because she was a distraction to him, and what he wanted to do, what the president wanted to do, and by having that affair, and then, they didn't want problems with the wife and so forth as well. But yeah, it's unfortunate when things like that happen. I think she needed to have boundaries, um, because it's kind of hard. Like, when you are having an affair, I'm not gonna say I haven't. I mean, I haven't had an affair like that, but you know, I did date someone that was married, and never again will I do it. Um, but it was not something serious. It was just, you know, it was a happy hour thing, but he was married, and it ended up in something else, and I regretted it the next day because he was my client, and I had to deal with him like the next day. For him, it was like whatever, and for me, I was like, oh God, I don't want to talk to you no more. But so it was not an affair like that, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't do that with a married person. I know the consequences, and I'm smart about it because I know how karma works, right? And I know how to set boundaries in that. But unfortunately, we're talking back in the 50s or something. And it's unfortunate that that happened, but those are some of the cases that happen. If you are like this big, powerful person, and things like that can happen. But it's interesting. I just wanted to see that video because it talked about her life, and how they took her out because she was too flirtatious and she was too obvious. They said she was too obvious. And somebody had talked to her too that she needed to click it down. She needed to, be more quiet and, not say much. And they couldn't control her. And she was like, no, she's going to do whatever she wanted to do. She was a rebel. And they said, okay, well, then she has to go then. She doesn't want to keep it quiet. And so interesting. So when I seen that video, I was like, what? Why am I watching this video? Right. And now I'm looking at the Jupiter trine Venus that could bring memories from the past. It could be people from the past that are maybe surrounding you or surrounding a type of frequency. So also, Venus rules, if Venus is in Pisces, it's exalted. So it's elevated, and it rules love and value. It also rules ancestral restoration. I even wrote it here. And it's a benefic, which is it's not a malefic. Malefic will be like dark and evil, right? But when it's benefic, it's very favorable. And so it's about ancestral restoration with Venus and Pisces, which connects to past lives and ancestral memory. Okay. So it could be something about memories, it could be about our ancestors, or it could just be about any memory from the past. Okay. And Jupiter, which is also a benefic, okay, it rules protection of the family bloodline. So Jupiter is in Cancer, okay? And Jupiter in Cancer and Venus in Pisces, they're both water signs, and they trine and they get along very well. Another thing too, that the moon's in Taurus, okay? The moon in Taurus also is exalted. So we got Venus in Pisces is exalted, Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, and we got the moon in Taurus, which is exalted. So it's all forming a triangle in exaltation. And that is powerful because that is very rare. That doesn't happen all the time. And that's happening tonight. Okay? So when these two come together, Venus and Jupiter, it forms a perfect harmony. It doesn't just heal you, but it also heals your entire lineage. Okay, your entire family lineage. There's this healing that comes together. So you just got to ask, what is coming back in your life? Is it money? Is it real estate? Is it ancestral values? Are you trying to be more traditional? Are you trying to be more innovative? Are memories coming back, of maybe past lives? Because that's what Venus and Pisces rules. And then we got Jupiter in Cancer. It has to do with ancestors, ancestral lineage, bloodline. Okay. It might be if you're spiritual. Um, for me, um, yeah, I'm hearing something about you're tapped in. For me, I read the Proverbs book every year. I've done it for the past 15 years. And it's the Book of Solomon, right? And I'm just wearing this little oil of King Solomon as well, when I pray and so forth. And I feel like I'm just connected to him in some kind of way. And I feel his energy. Like, it's not his old energy, though. It's like a more mature energy. It's not like his player energy that he had. He had, like, I think 20 wives or something like that. And he probably had some huge ego, because he was the most richest man in Israel. He had a bunch of gold and everything. But this time, the energy, it's when when I put the oil and I pray, and he comes in as a mature King Solomon, not the old King Solomon, but more like more mature, like he's studied and learned how to become a better King Solomon. And he comes as very mature, you know. And yesterday, I don't know if it came from him or from God or my ancestors, but yesterday's download was there needs to be unconditional love, and it might be pertaining to this whole Israel and Iran war that they're trying to do, because, we don't need to see more families in bloodshed, especially with Iran, on both sides. They've been fighting for years and years and years. But I don't know. I received that download and said we need to have unconditional love. In not just Israel and Iran, but throughout the whole world. We're doing major, major resets. And we need to focus on love. And I hate to say it, but I mean, even Bad Bunny, right? He said when there's hate, we gotta love. We gotta love people. We gotta show love. Even if he really meant it or not, but that was his message, that where there's hate, there has to be love, And so yesterday I heard the download of unconditional love. So I'm trying to see what else did I write here. Wrote a bunch of notes here. Another thing too that I did write is that whatever is returned, with whether it's money, inspiration, people, ancestry, understand that it's a seed, okay? And this is just the beginning, okay, of an abundant cycle, okay? When Venus and Jupiter, when they're in harmony, and the moon is in Taurus, ruling luxury, ruling real estate, then understand that, and they're all exalted, they're all elevated in a triangle. Understand that it is a very, very important day today. Okay, so they're also they have maximum dignity through harmony. Okay, so it's just very elevated, and very harmonious. And the last time we had something like this was a decade ago. Okay. So what are the things that we can do? Okay. Well, number one, we have to be able to receive. Okay. We got to open our hands, open our heart to possibilities. And that can't happen if we're distracted. That can't happen if we're in chaos. That can't happen if our nervous system is not regulated, if we're not balanced, So we have to be able to receive. And in order for us to receive, we got to be confident in ourselves to receive. Because a lot of times when we don't receive, we don't feel that we're worthy enough to receive it. And we reject it. Right? So you don't want to reject things. Okay? Because Venus Jupiter trine wants to give to you. So if you don't know how to receive, if you don't know how to open your hands and receive that into your life, then you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. And so things you can do is you take a bath, be near the ocean, near the beach, drink some water, drink a bunch of water. Ice water would be good. Okay. And reconnect to your past memories. Reconnect to anything that makes you feel good. you know. A lot of times, some people might go back to their hometown or look at old pictures when they were children and, they were happy children. You were a happy child or something, something that just makes you smile from the past. Um, so let me see, what else did I write here? I wrote so many because there's so much stuff going on here. So I did talk about the massive resets. Okay, so we're good here. I did talk about the restoration. Okay, so I did want to talk about also about what Venus represents here. Okay, in Pisces, it rules love and relationships, beauty and aesthetics, money and value, pleasure and attraction. Okay, and what Jupiter represents is expansion and growth, luck and opportunity, wisdom and higher perspective, abundance and generosity. Okay, so when they form a trine, which is 120 degrees, the energy flows effortlessly. Okay, there's no friction, there's no force, it's just alignment. And so, what this transit feels like is love expands. So, connections feel warmer, easier, more generous. People are kinder, and hearts soften. And maybe something like this is going to happen for what's happened in Mexico. There's probably going to be more people are going to be more generous, more philanthropic, more helpful, more trying to, help one another and show more love towards people, even tourists. Maybe tourists helping the people that also got hurt somewhere in the community, and they're able to assist and help and be of service, right? Also, money opportunities can open. So, not necessarily lottery luck, more like doors opening because you're aligned. Deals flow, offers appear, confidence increases. Okay. So, your magnetism rises. Okay. You glow differently under this transit. Venus and Jupiter enhances charm, elegance, and charisma. Speaking of this, when I was laying down, I was taking my power siesta, just resting the body. I heard a download of Beverly Hills, and I don't know if it's because I posted a video that I went yesterday to a celebration, a Chinese event of the fire horse, and so I did a video. It was very interesting. It was. I'm glad that I went out, because I needed to go out. I hadn't went to that location for a long time, and it's so different now. It looks like a museum, and the facility where they did it, the event, the venue, and it was fun. It was really fun. And so I hadn't seen a lot of things there. I was like, oh wow, it looks so different, right? And I took a video and I posted online. I don't know if it's because of that, because I look like, very elevated with my white coat and, like a rich girl or something. I don't know. But it's something about magnetism of glowing, during this Venus Jupiter. And so it could be something like that for, in my case, because I hadn't took a video for a long time, because I don't really go out. And here locally, there haven't been much events because they're transforming what they call the West Harbor, which is a waterfront port where they're building a lot of restaurants and a lot of entertainment and so forth. So there hasn't been events here locally because they've been doing a lot of construction. So, maybe it's going to be different, if I still live here, right, in this location. So we'll see what happens, right? But even if I would move, because my intention is to move, where, you know, I could use my marketing and my astrology services and everything else, and my communication, which is very important, um, in a more aligned place, I would say, where there's competition. And not that I'm looking for competition, but I feel I'm too much here in my comfort zone. And I feel, I'm not trying to say that I'm all that in a bag of chips, but here in San Pedro, I feel like I'm the it girl, um, where I don't see major competition here. You know what I mean? And it's not about competition, but there's nothing that I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. I just feel I've overgrown. I feel like I'm like a shark in a, what is it? They say a fish in or a shark in a small pond or something, a fish in a small pond. Like there's just no growth for me, because I think I did everything that I could. And, once you reach the top, um, I'm somebody that always wants more. And it could be my Capricorn and Mars. Because Capricorns, nothing's ever enough. They always want more and more and more. They're not okay with okay, which is good because that just means you're ambitious. But, some people reach the top and they're fine. Or they reach a certain level, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the top, and they're fine with it. They're like, I'm fine. I don't need more. And that's fine. Okay. That's really okay too. But I'm somebody that I need to be challenged, or I need to want more in life, Um, and so I just feel I'm not challenged enough here. So that's one of the reasons that I do want to move. But if I would move, I would still return. Okay. I would still return to San Pedro. And I have a lot of memories here, in the times when I was really, really broke. Okay. Really broke. And kind of, I don't want to think about those times, but, I'm in a much better place now, financially than before. But I mean, it was to the point that I was going hungry, and there were a lot of events that were here, and I ate because of those events, and for that I'm grateful. I'm not like, ungrateful. I am grateful for San Pedro for some of the things, um, but I just feel that I think my time is up here and I need to go somewhere in a bigger arena, you know, where I'm going to be challenged. And is she really all that? Is she really a good influencer? Can she really bring traffic? Can she? And I say that to myself. They're not saying that to me. I say that to myself. And that's in Orange County. But I don't know why when I was laying down, I heard Beverly Hills. So I don't know if I look like a Beverly Hills type of girl with the video with my white coat. And I just feel like dressing up. I wore my boots, my brown boots that I bought. That they're like very ox energy because I'm an ox, or very horse, Um, and so, I was wearing my boots and my red dress and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's because of that, because I look pretty elevated. And I just wanted to dress up because I hadn't dressed up like that for a long, long time. But I heard Beverly Hills and that download, like, okay, but like I said, I'm not going to say no if somebody, if somebody has a mansion somewhere in Beverly Hills, I'm not going to say no. You know what I mean? I want to have a lot of properties, a lot of real estate in different locations. I've always said that I wanted to be, what are those influencers that are, um, I forgot what they're called. Well, they're the influencers they make impacts like in a lot of cities, and they have a lot of properties in different areas. And so one of my goals that has been is to have properties in different locations and influence in that area with marketing, right? I could be there like for 3 months and do influence in that area, and then go back to Orange County and go there for 3 months. I don't know, go to San Diego, do another 3 months, go to um, I don't know, maybe even here in San Pedro, you know what I mean? Like, lease one of those lofts and be there for 3 months and see what happens during the summertime, right? When it's supposed to be so packed because, here in San Pedro, it is going to attract a lot of tourism. I know it is. It is. And those that live right across from the West Harbor where all the action is going on, if you live in one of those high elevated apartments, It's just across the street, and they're going to have concerts and everything. We'll see how everything goes. But for those that live right across from the waterfront, they're going to be able to experience all the nightlife and, everything, the restaurants and so forth, and the tourism and the attraction that's going to happen there, because they have major contacts. It's just they're a rat. So this is not really their favorable year, That doesn't mean that they can't put themselves out there, but they're going to have to connect with other animals that they do get along, like the ox, the dog, right? And, to have some sort of luck if you're a rat. Um, but next year is more favorable for San Pedro than this year. But, we'll see how that goes, right? um, so I don't know why I heard Beverly Hills, but like I said, I'm not going to say no, you know. If it's a beautiful mansion, they want me to, they want to buy me that mansion. They want to invest for me to live there, like, just to do the marketing, I'll just be doing there like 3 months, or they want me to do videos or, shopping in Beverly Hills or whatever it is. I don't know, whatever brings traffic, I'm willing to do it. So it's just about that, having opportunities. I'm not going to say yes to every opportunity. I don't want to be swamped like that and overwhelmed. But, for the best opportunities that can come, then yeah, why not? You know? So that's where the magnetism can rise. Also, optimism in relationships. Okay. If you've been tense with someone, this transit can bring forgiveness and understanding. So it's also at the 15 degree. Okay. The 15 degree is a midpoint degree. Okay. It's often strong, visible, expressive. It rules communication. It is a degree of Gemini. Okay. So it full embodies the sign's energy. It has a peak expression and a confident tone. Okay, so if this happens in fire signs, it's big, bold, passion. It's not in, actually, the 15 is in Pisces, and if it's in an earth sign, it's tangible, wealthy, and stability. But it's in water signs. So if it's in air signs, it's social brilliance and networking wins. In water signs, it's emotional and spiritual intimacy. Okay. So this is like very emotional, very spiritual, very intimate, when it's in water sign. Okay. So that's something to look forward with the 15 degree of communication. Maybe our communication is more emotional. Maybe some of us might start crying. Maybe, or, some tears might run out or might run down our face or something. Or if we think of something, or, um, you know, there might be this intimacy of spiritual, like if you're having, love, if you're making love with your partner, maybe you'll start crying. I've heard that happen. That has never happened to me, but I've heard that happen. It's not just in the movies, but I hear there are some people that if it's very spiritual, like you'll start crying, and I think that happens with eighth house people, because eighth house is the house of Scorpio. And it's very deep, you know what I mean? Like deep intimacy. Like it's not just sex, you know what I mean? It's love making, like something that, and I think that's what they said about Marilyn Monroe, that it was different with her, that it was something you have never experienced before. I was like, wow. Something that they have never experienced that with her, that she was just different. I don't know what she did, but they just couldn't, they were obsessed with her. They couldn't get enough of her. So what are the things to watch out for? The shadow to watch out for. Even good things can be overdone. Okay, can be overindulgence, because Jupiter rules overindulgence. So it could be overspending, overindulging, overpromising, overeating, romanticizing someone too quickly. Okay, Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches, so make sure what is expanding is aligned with your long-term vision. Okay, so those are some of the things there, that I just needed to talk about, just about this transit in itself. Let me just refresh here to see where the moon is, because that's really important. Okay, so the moon right now is at 18 degrees of Virgo, so it's very, right now, very stable and serious. It could be a little bit serious, the moon right now. And let's see. Yeah, it's serious because the moon is squaring Mars. And where Mars in Aquarius is at 24 degrees of prophecy. Okay. So this is something prophetic that is happening and is forming a challenge with the moon in Taurus right now. Where the moon in Taurus and I don't want to go more deeper into this because it's already a long episode, because it was more about the Venus Jupiter, but I just wanted to talk a little bit on here. It's in the 7th house of our relationships, okay, where the moon in Taurus is, and is we are. So it's important to know where it's at, because it's forming just that trine with Jupiter and Venus, and I believe it's doing. Let me go to there. Venus. Okay, Venus is at 16 now. Okay, so it was, when I was doing the podcast, it was at 15 of communication. Now it's at 16 of ancestry. So now it's even more important, any ancestry lineage. Okay, and so let me see here. Okay, yeah. So Venus in Pisces is making an opportunity, a sextile with the moon in Taurus. Okay, while Venus and Jupiter is making a trine. Okay. I know it might sound a little bit confusing for those that still don't get like astrology and so forth, and it's understandable, because, not everybody's going to get it at the beginning. But if you continue listening to the podcast, and I try to explain it in simple lingo, not make it overcomplicated, so that we all get it, because we are all in unity. This is not about being selfish and just me understanding it, This is about, I like for everybody to understand it, because once you understand, you're like, wow, you'll know why things are happening. And I think everybody should know, so this is about the collective. And so when Venus right now is making an opportunity with the moon in Taurus, is very luxurious, very comfortable, very, especially where Venus is. Venus in Pisces is in the 4th house of your home, okay, where you belong. Okay, the motto there is I belong. Okay, it might do anything with properties, real estate. It has to do also with immovable possessions like vehicles. It could be ending of matters. Okay, it could be, it governs influence regarding children. Anything with ancestors, okay, psychological roots and your private life is all in the 4th house. It also rules the body, okay, how you take care of the body. And it is forming an opportunity with the moon in Taurus with how we feel about luxury, how we feel about elevation, how we feel about tradition, right? Whether we want to be traditional or not, right? How we feel about the past and where we've been, and where we are now and where we want to head in these new cycles that are entering in our lives. Whether we feel fortunate or we don't feel fortunate. And if we don't feel fortunate, what can we do about it, right? There are baby steps that you can take, especially, focus on spiritual matters of getting close to God, taking a sea salt bath, a shower, drinking a lot of water, and praying, to God, maybe opening your Bible. Meditation is also another thing too. And, today's word, I have a word deck of all the words. And with all the chaos and everything that's going on, the word today is lifestyle. So it's interesting, it's about, having to build a lifestyle that you want, right? Whether it's a healthy lifestyle or a fortunate lifestyle, or a basic lifestyle, whatever type of lifestyle you're looking for, a healthy lifestyle, I would say, health is wealth. So there we go. That's what we have for today. And I just wanted to just talk a little bit about this. There's still time for you to, it's 10:58 right now, but I mean, it's not just going to be today, this is the beginning of an abundance cycle. Okay. With Jupiter and, Venus, which is love and value, which also rules money. And then Jupiter is about the opportunities that come into our lives. So be available, be ready to catch it. And yeah, and so that's what we have. So if you did like the podcast episode here, would you share it with your friends? Like it, comment on it if you want to comment on there, and I do respond. And I'll talk to you guys on the next episode.